What show did you quit watching in a later season, and why? House of Cards was so clever in the first few seasons when he was always a step ahead of everyone else, but after he became president, it suddenly felt like everyone else was a step ahead of him, which was boring. The show went on such a decline after Spacey became president. Then, the last season went to complete and utter trash after he was fired, and they wrote his character out. As much as Spacey is the vilest human scum there is, he made that show. I could not stand how he was treating Claire after the first few seasons. Sliders. It was a really good show with a simple premise. College student opens a portal to different parallel Earths. He and his friends get lost and have to find their way back home. Seasons 1 and 2 were pretty solid. Season 3 went off the rails and a popular character got killed off in a shitty way. They switched from Fox to Sci-Fi in Season 4, where the premise of the show became crazy convoluted. All but one of the main cast left in Season 5, and the whole show just became a mess. That's when I bailed. Man, that show got so stupid towards the end. It is a classic example of taking a show with a cool premise and royally fucking it up beyond recognition. I fantasize about it getting a proper reboot sometimes. It is not like they could ruin it any further, so I feel like it is a good candidate for an attempt at one. Season 3 is already quite bad. Season 4 is almost unwatchable. Season 5 is unwatchable, just heinously bad. It is a real shame. That is a show I would love to see get a remake. A good remake that does it justice. It is worth noting that one of the biggest reasons the show started to slip was because they moved filming locations. Much of the creative staff changed then at the start of Season 3. A lot of the recurring side characters were just gone because they had moved to Los Angeles. They also had to change the sliding device to account for that and increased its range to 200 miles of something rather than 2 miles. None of the familiar locations were used. All the sets were gone. It just had a totally different tone after that. Westworld. I loved the first season. It is probably my favorite bit of television from the past 5 years, and I could not even make it a full episode into Season 2. I have no idea how they lost my interest so entirely and immediately, but they did. Join the Westworld sub, and you will see that your viewpoint is very common. Season 1 was maybe the best season of TV ever made. Season 2, the writers got too full of themselves, forgot about story, and just went too deep with philosophy. Season 3 was just god-awful for too many reasons to count. I was adamant that I would watch the first few episodes of Season 4 and then drop it if it was garbage, but it's actually been pretty good. The intrigue is back. I like the direction they are going. It will never get back to Season 1 greatness, but I am glad I stuck with it. It is like the writers were trying to keep it mind-fucky like Season 1, but they got so lost in it that they ended up just making a confusing, pretentious mess. I finished Sons of Anarchy, but I kind of wished I dropped it as it gets way too repetitive with each season. New baddie comes to town and majorly fucks Sam Crow/Jax in the arse until they get too cocky and get killed / defeated in increasingly spectacular and unrealistic way. For this reason, I dropped Peaky Blinders, which I absolutely loved because it started giving me strong Sons of Anarchy vibes. Yeah, they are both equally shot through with improbability. I gave up on Peaky Blinders because I found it kind of irritating, even though I loved certain aspects of it. Adrian Brody as Luca Shangretta, for example. He was ace, and that whole denouement was brilliant, but something about the story just made me wary, and I cannot really be asked watching the last 5 or so episodes. Sons of Anarchy was a fun Hamlet as biker's piece of nonsense, and the ludicrous soapy drama quality of it was not off the mark as an homage to Elizabethan/Jacobean revenge drama, but too much effort was put into making these drug-dealing, arms-dealing, porn-dealing bikers unbelievably respectful of women, in order to keep them sympathetic to the audience. Bikers in biker gangs are not like that. They are douchebags. None of the Sons of Anarchy would ever do anything to hurt a woman. The only exception, apart from the death of Agent Stachel, and apart from Jax killing his mum, of course, was Kurt Sutter's over-the-top, hammered-up character, who is frankly not an asset to the show. Last season of Prison Break was absolutely awful. It really jumped the shark. Rewatching Sons of Anarchy with my kid, and it is so eye-rollingly repetitive, and the misogyny is off the charts. The toxic masculinity of everyone is too much. However, Teague, Gemma, and Chibs are a mood. Heroes. Season 1 was one of the best seasons of TV I have ever seen. Season 2 was boring, but maybe the show could rebound. Season 3 I was basically pity watching until I just couldn't force myself through it any longer. The writer's strike took this one down hard. They had half-written/edited scripts and used them to put out episodes without having writers there to make edits, and changed when things did not work. A director rarely makes a good on-demand writer since they cannot see the big picture, especially when so many episodes have one-off directors. It was such a mess and would have been much improved and less capitalist hellscape to take a hiatus like the rest of the shows did. My friend got me on Heroes back when the last season was airing. I was in the middle of the first season, happened to catch one of the episodes of the last seasons, and legit, everything was the same. I was like, wait, how is everything the same if you are on the last season and I am on the first season? He then proceeded to tell me how cool stuff got before it goes back to how it was. Yeah, fuck that. That is shit writing right there. I get, there was a writer's strike, but Jesus Christ. The Walking Dead could not get into it. Yeah, I watched it until the episode where Negan showed up at the final episode of the season. I recall watching the first episode of the next season to see which main character had died, Glenn, but never saw another episode. It just became so redundant. They are walking, they find a sanctuary. Sanctuary gets overrun with bad guys. They have to leave. I stopped not long before that. When Glenn fell off of the dumpster and died, I said that he was not dead and it was just a bullshit ploy I had grown tired of. Sure enough, he was alive and I stopped watching. Orange is the New Black. It was really good for the first few seasons. Then it just got way out of control and unrealistic. The later season where they have a riot and seize control of the entire prison. Like, how the fuck did the plot get to there? I stopped watching Death Note when L died. I just didn't like N and felt completely cheated out of an amazing character. It took me years to go back and actually finish it. House and Criminal Minds. Both got a bit too ridiculous and formulaic to keep my interest. Definitely Criminal Minds. After Emily left, came back and left again. I was just not interested. I only came back to see Derek's last few shows. And then, when Hotch left, I was just completely done. Also, House lost me when he and Cutty got involved. Suits. It started becoming a weird melodrama. I am repeating others' answers, but for me, it was Shameless and Dexter. They both got so unrealistic that I thought it was pointless to force myself to pretend that I enjoyed it. Not saying that the entire plot was believable, but it was watchable until it just got stupid. I will never forgive Dexter for pulling the rug way too early. Dexter's graveyard being discovered should not have been a second season hook. It should have been in-game material. I skipped the final season of Game of Thrones. I quit watching somewhere during season 6, and I had to force myself to get that far. I will never understand why that show was so popular. It is easily the most overhyped show I have ever watched at length. Once upon a time, I loved it. I just got really pissed because Henry got tricked by Peter Pan, and I stopped watching for a bit, and then it got taken off of Netflix, and I do not want to look for a website to watch it on, sir. But if you all have websites, though, tell me. The Peter Pan arc was the last decent one. Then, it's just season after season of the characters making exactly the same mistakes, with absolutely no useful character development. They did some interesting stuff with some characters. I liked what they did with Peter Pan, but once they started introducing Alice and Aladdin as characters, I was skeptical. Those are from a different kind of story, and as soon as they introduced Elsa from Frozen, I was, nope, f*** this. Stranger Things. Kids not as cute. Sorry, Kidsy. I watched the first season and a half, just as kind of a background show, listening but not closely watching. But since then, I got super into it and stay completely focused. It's definitely one of the best recent shows. I say, give it another chance as well. Simpsons in season 10 because it became horrible, unfunny, and everyone acted out of character. As someone who has been watching The Simpsons from the beginning, I was legitimately shocked how fast it goes downhill starting with season 10 when I started rewatching on Disney+. I remembered there being like a 5-year. This is not as good as it used to be, period, but there just was not a single episode I had any desire to watch starting in season 10. The Flash. They killed off an amazing character with an interesting story, personality, and supporting role just to save a love interest for no tangible reason, only for that character to get completely forgotten despite their sacrifice. At some point, I stopped caring about the personal love lives of every single character and just want unique interactions with characters, or hell, maybe some actual action for a superhero TV show instead of 45 minutes of constant flirting and or argument. Ironically, some of the most interesting and compelling characters in the show were either single or old. Reverse Flash, Jay Garrick, Dr. Stein, Clock King, Harrison, and Wells. The final straw was when random people got introduced specifically just for more love interests. Then it was now we are pregnant. Nope, I was done. Family Guy. I stopped watching it after the life of Brian fiasco, as it was clear that the episode was another jump. The Shark Moment, a character that lost all likability years ago, was killed off for a few episodes to generate sympathy and for the sake of publicity. I have no clue why I stopped watching it after that episode, but I just did. At this point, the show is just Ren and Stimpy on steroids, full to the brim with gross-out humor and disturbing content, which nobody above the age of 17 would find amusing. Seth MacFarlane, who lost control of the show, wishes it was cancelled in the late 2000s. First show I ever gave up on. I stopped smack dab in the middle of the show. No regrets. Walking Dead. The showrunners and the writers are straight up insulting to their audience. Also, they suck and they are racist. Right now, the new Game of Thrones show about to drop has me interested, but at the same time, I am cool never stepping foot into that fictional world ever again. The previous showrunners fucked up so badly. Bones. Tried finishing it like 10 times over the years, but by season 4, the whole show becomes so fucking boring and predictable with the absolute lamest fucking injected drama. Let me guess, Bones will be out of touch with something that no living human could be that out of touch on. Say something offensive, be confused why her friends are upset, then come around by the end and apologize, only to learn nothing and do it next week. Angela will be all artsy-fartsy and encourage her friends to do stupid, outlandish shit with no consideration for the consequences like a f***ing child. Booth will simultaneously be smart enough to be one of the best special agents in the Federal Bureau of Investigation, but also not know basic high school level science stuff, because you just got to have a simple folk to show how super smart your original character, your main character is, win. And cherry on top, every single crime will just so happen to have some type of relation to whatever boring ass manufactured drama you got going on today, and have some wacky gimmick with the victim or how they died. Off. Didn't plan for this to be so long, but god, f*** this show. I wanna like it so bad. The good parts are so f***ing good. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe.